Hi, this is Craig. I'm redoing a lecture that I did last Saturday, February 6, 2021, because I ran out of time because I was a little on the tired side and not thinking too clearly. So if anybody wanted to see what wasn't able to attend the lecture, I didn't want to subject them to that. And those that were there at the time, I apologize. I can do better, and hopefully this will. I'm doing a little talk on Master Tang Hoi, the book we've been looking at for the last couple of months, First Zen Teacher in Vietnam and China, a book by Thich Nhat Hanh as the primary source. John did a couple of great talks earlier about some of the historical aspects of it. What I want to do now is just review some of the meditation techniques that Tang Hoi talked about or was known to have used. I also have a brief blurb I want to read and look at a couple of maps, but then I promise I'll get into the meditation stuff. Toot sweet. So what I wanted to say, my introduction, I'm just going to read this. Vietnamese Buddhism is an interesting mashup of many traditions. Buddhism initially came here in Theravadan form from Sri Lanka, possibly in the 1st century current era. Sea routes for trade between India and Indochina, China, and Japan also became established around this time. From this contact, Mahayana principles spread out from southeastern India. One of the notable figures was Tang Hoi, a 3rd century monk, translator, and meditation master in Vietnam. His teachings were unusual in that they combined the early Buddhist teachings on mindfulness and meditation with the spirit of the Mahayana teachings of Buddhist psychology and the principles of the Avatamsaka Sutra, which is about the interpenetration of all phenomenon. Excuse me. The striking thing about this is that it predates the formulation of these two ideas as Buddhist thought by several hundred years. So I think Tang Hoi died in 280 current era and was, I think, about 65 years old. So, somewhere around 230, 240, he was talking about this stuff, which is like 300 years or more before Buddha Dharma came to China and started, and Chan Buddhism really got established. So he was he was representative of a movement that was quite ahead of its time, or at least our current perspective on history would think that. The meditation school Tang Hoi founded continued into the 14th century, and at that point it was folded along with other schools into the Bamboo Forest School. This school is considered to have been the first truly Vietnamese Tien school. It was the predominant meditation school in Vietnam for several hundred years. Then it was replaced in the 17th century by Lam Te, based on the Linji school, which mixes Chan and Pure Land Buddhism, and as you probably know, is the tradition of the DTO. A quote from Thich Nhat Hanh: Tang Hoi is not only a patriarch of the meditation school in Vietnam, but because he went to China in the mid-3rd century, he may be considered an early patriarch of the meditation school in China. I now wanted to take a brief look at the maps. Maps, I think, is a helpful way to look at different information. It gives you different perspectives since it's visual. So the first thing I wanted to show I find interesting because the way you normally see the expansion of Buddhism from India depicted is like this. Red is Mahayana, so that's what I'm talking about here. Coming down through Indonesia, going up to China, then circling back to Vietnam later. So what this book is saying, and other sources have said, is that it didn't actually work that way. It came more like this, where coming out of this section of India here, there's a lot of Buddhism here. Ashoka, 100 years earlier, had charged the monasteries to go out and spread Buddhism as widely as possible because he was a convert to it and felt quite strongly that this was, earth-shaking, would change the world, and it was our obligation to share it. So Buddhist monasteries in this area, of which there were quite a few. This was another slide, or another map I found showing that. So these two, Amaravati and Nagarjunakonda, are two that were mentioned in the book as sources of these missionaries going out. So this is this area. Whoops, this is this area right in here. Actually, the names were depicted there. So it came out, went down also through Indonesia, but came up to this area in northern Vietnam, which I describe a little bit later in some of the text. But there was just a ton of stuff going on there. It was a confluence. This was occupied by or administered by China. And so anyway, so there was Chinese culture there, including Taoism, Confucianism, Chinese language, Vietnamese languages, a lot of commerce going on, and there was a lot of time to kill. The ships would come over, they would conduct their trade in this area, and then because of the way the winds worked, they'd have to wait. So they'd have 4 to 6 months of just being there, and consequently there was a lot of exchange of different ideas. The last thing I just wanted to show, which is mostly just because it's just a really cool map. This is also from Wikipedia, Eastern Hemisphere 100 AD. A couple of things that the reason I'm showing this is just to, if you look at it, what are all these place names? I mean, this is very different than how things are now. Where was your lineage at this time? I mean, the country names are all different. The point is that a lot has changed. 1900 years is a long, long time. What we get now is kind of filtered through time. And in my look at this, I was trying to go back and see what actually happened. What did Tang Hoi do? What's the historically accurate way to to picture this? And the truth is, we don't know. A lot of this is lost to history. Anyway, I thought this was a cool map that kind of makes you recognize that at a visceral level where you don't recognize most of the country names. So now I'll just talk about some of the meditation techniques of Tang Hoi. Tang Hoi. He's known for, well, there are two bits of his writing, two of his works that survived time. One was the preface to the Anapanna Smriti Sutra, which I think is the Chinese version of the Anapanasati Sutra. So he wrote a preface to that, which included some meditation techniques. But I think a lot of those techniques, or most of those techniques, were also included in his other work, and that was the collection on the 6 paramitas. So he, using the 6 paramitas as an organizing technique, he looked through the Buddhist canon and picked out stories of teachings of Siddhartha Gautama, and also of past lives that had represented in some way the paramitas, and organized those into these chapters. And then for each chapter, he wrote an essay as a preface to it. So the preface to the paramita of meditation is called Realizing Meditation. So that's what was included in this book, and that's what I'm looking at here. Tang Hoi, okay, I just said that part. The Unlimited Virtue of Meditative Concentration That Takes Us to the Other Shore was the name of the chapter on the meditation. And it just caused me to think about, when they talk about the other shore, what actually are they meaning? I looked around for a good definition of it. The best one I could find is: the shore on which we currently stand is the shore of ignorance, the world of birth and death, and the other shore is the shore of awakening, the world of nirvana. And the way to transcend that river that divides the two is through meditation. So, in this essay, he combines the Mahayana Bodhisattva concept with the Theravada 4 meditative concentrations: body, feelings, consciousness, phenomenon. Meditative concentration can make our minds upright again. Wholesome formations can eliminate unwholesome ones, and the fire of this elimination is concentration, or samadhi. So there are elements of meditation. There are wholesome elements of meditation and unwholesome elements of meditation. So the wholesome ones, these are 5 mental factors that arrive during the first jhana, or stage of concentration. So there is initial thought, subsequent discursive thought, joy or bliss, happiness, one-pointed mind. So a little more slowly, initial thought is mental attention, where you attend to an object and you stay on it. So they use the analogy of a butterfly alighting on a flower. The Sanskrit, I think, is vitakka, or directive thought. Subsequent discursive thought is investigation of phenomenon. to contemplate more deeply the object of investigation. In the Pali is vikara, or evaluation. Joy or bliss, sukha, the calm happiness that's independent of external circumstances. Interestingly, the etymology of sukha is good aperture. So su is good, ka is aperture, and it originally meant having a good axle hole, which is important if you ride in a chariot. So clever analogy. The fourth is happiness, piti, an exciting, energizing quality. The last is one-pointed mind, a calm mind capable of looking deeply. Opposing those wholesome factors are the unwholesome factors, also called the five hindrances. So those are craving and desire, hatred or anger, sleepiness, agitation or regret, and doubt. Craving or desire is, the point is made, feeding the craving increases it, countered by single-pointed mind. So I think single-pointed mind, you're able to look deeply, which is a calm mind capable of looking deeply. So with that clarity, you can look at the origin of craving and desire, and that can help you to counter it. Hatred or anger is another type of craving, and it is countered by happiness. So I think the idea there is, if you actually invite the feeling of happiness, or have the feeling of happiness arise in you, there's no room for hatred or anger. So it just counters it. Sleepiness, they point out that excessive sleepiness may be a sign of other problems. The counter for that is initial thought. And the way that would work, they don't really go into this, so this is just kind of my shot at it. But the initial thought is the initial excitement when you come across an idea and it just like kind of clicks and fits into whatever mental framework that you're using, or point of view, the story that we have in our head. So the initial thought of this subject that you're looking at generates excitement, which counters sleepiness. Agitation and regret. So agitation prevents peace. Agitation or regret actually is one of the neutral attributes, in that it can be negative or positive, depending. So regret that eats at us is unwholesome, but the regret that prompts a change can be wholesome. So these things, to counter for them, are joy or bliss. Again, similar to, I think, the happiness, why it can counter that. Doubt robs us of peace, joy, and freedom. And I think that is countered by subsequent discursive thought, being that if you have doubts about something, if you subsequent discursive thought, you're able to go into it and understand why at one point you thought that this was a valid way of thinking, or the correct way of thinking. So it just does that. So those are the elements of meditation. And then the four meditative concentrations they're not actually a type of practice, but they are a guide or framework for a practice. Alone, they're not sufficient to achieve liberation, but when coupled with the other techniques, such as mindfulness of breathing, 4 stages of mindfulness, 8 recollections, 10 contemplations, they allow us to realize understanding, love, and liberation. They are. So eliminate craving. Now, you should say, I can't do that, but you don't need to, I shouldn't say, I said that wrong. Eliminate craving. You don't need to fully understand the nature of craving to understand that you need to eliminate it. So you don't have to plumb the depths of this. You can just go and do it. You can eliminate craving just by letting it go, which is easy to say. And I would say hard to do, but it's not hard to do. It is just doing it. It's kind of like Yoda saying, there is no try, just do. We do understand that it causes us to suffer, so that's enough reason to let it go. Achieving this gives us weak concentration and some joy or happiness. This is like having escaped from your enemies by climbing to the top of a high mountain. You feel safer, but what if your enemies find you there? You're still not safe. Or more likely, what if you go looking for your enemies? What if? Second meditative concentration. Initial thought and subsequent thought begin to disappear, and your one-pointed mind becomes more stable. So initial thought and subsequent thought begin to disappear. Our joy and our happiness also increase, but we still have the same fear that our enemies will find us. But at this point, we know that those enemies are actually within us. The third concentration, the idea of wholesome and unwholesome, starts to drop away. We no longer fear any enemy from within or without. This happiness is called dwelling happily in the present moment, or the food of the holy ones. We're able to live in the world of change and suffering without suffering. This is called the profane and the holy living together. And the last concentration, the fourth, wholesome and unwholesome no longer exist, nor do happiness and suffering. What's left is one-pointed mind, bright and clear. This concept of a bright and clear original mind would later be the foundation for the teachings on Buddha nature and Tathagata Garbha, which is the idea of Buddha essence exists in all sentient creatures. Another quote, when the impurities have been destroyed, the mind gradually becomes clear, brighter than precious jewels or the light of the moon. The attention of the mind to sensual desire and the impurities of the mind, which are like mud sticking to a clean mirror, are all wiped clean. Now this mirror is placed on the earth and turned up toward the heavens, and there is no world that it does not reflect. The earth and the sky are endlessly wide, but one mirror can embrace them all. So that was Tang Hoi. So other meditations or meditative practices, the 5 meditations on change. Look deeply at your face and the faces of others. What is it that you see? What is it that is there but you cannot see? See the change that is apparent from one moment to the next. Second, when you see suffering, see also that suffering will change. When you see happiness, also see that happiness will change. A third is notice the change in your intentions. Today we think this is the right course. Tomorrow we think differently. Use your observation of these changes of intention to develop wisdom. See the changes in your body and the body of others. The healthy may become ill and the ill may become healthy. The only escape from old age is death. We're constantly changing, and with that comes the opportunity to transform. The fifth, see that the wholesome can become unwholesome and the unwholesome can become wholesome. Nourish the wholesome and remember that the afflictions are awakening, meaning that without garbage there can be no flowers. Next type of meditation that he would use would be the contemplations, and there are 5 different contemplations. Well, this is actually the last group that I'll cover, but there are 5 of them. The 4 establishments of mindfulness. So he used the teachings, the mindfulness of breathing quite a lot, which is in the Anapanasmriti Sutra, but kind of as a natural byproduct of this are the 4 establishments of mindfulness that kind of go hand in hand. So that is the mindfulness of the body in the body, the feeling in the feelings, mental formations in the mental formations, objects of mind in objects of mind. When I first heard this, which is in the Anapanasati Sutra, why do they say the body in the body? It's kind of a weird grammatical construct there. The reason they do that is if you think of your body, feelings in the body, or how you think of your body, you think of feelings, any of these things you think of, and you're immediately prompted to associate these with a lot of other things, memories, attitudes, just different mental formations that you have, habitual ways of viewing this. And what the charge here, the reason for this construct, is the body in the body. So you just, you're thinking, you're being this part of your body. and there's nothing else there. Don't bring anything else to it. You're experiencing this feeling alone, by itself, nothing else. So it just is, I mean, we bring so much stuff to all of our, I mean, we are kind of a package deal. All of our experiences all kind of come together into this present moment. And this meditation is to not do that. Just be the moment, only the moment, which is difficult to do, but worthwhile to do because it allows you to see just this, which is incredibly helpful for a variety of reasons. The 8 recollections is another one of the contemplations, those being the mindfulness of. They're the recollection of the Buddha, recollection of the Dharma, of the Sangha, mindfulness trainings, recollection of equanimity, recollection of the God realms, of breathing, and of death. He didn't really offer any explanation for those. I mean, I think they're fairly self-evident. The 10 contemplations, he did offer an explanation for some of these, and that's when I say he, Thich Nhat Hanh's interpretation of these practices. So impermanence, contemplation of impermanence, contemplation of suffering, contemplation of non-self, contemplation of food, which he did elaborate a little bit, saying recognize that while attractive before and as we eat it, food becomes unattractive. This helps us eat with moderation. So it becomes unattractive, I think, is a delicate way of saying it. The impossibility of finding happiness in any worldly thing is another one of the contemplations. The explanation being many or all of the worldly things that we indulge in, quickly lead to suffering. Contemplation of death, looking deeply at the nature and inevitability of death, which is the same as the one of the 8 recollections. Contemplation of many wrongdoings, even when we intend otherwise, our habit energies or environment causes us to do things that we know we shouldn't. We can overcome this, but it takes all of our skill and effort to do so. Contemplation of giving up. Give up and let go the bondage of deceptions and toxins. Seek out a Sangha and develop a daily practice. Cutting off. Understanding that which harms you and ending. End all wrong perceptions and the infatuations, hatred, and anger caused by them. Ultimately, all of our perceptions are wrong perceptions, or at least that's true from from the non-conditioned point of view. Conditionally, yes, we do have perceptions and they're not necessarily wrong. They are hopefully skillful. The essence of nirvana, which is not conditioned, the essence of nirvana is to go beyond all words and perceptions. So from that point of view, all our perceptions are not useful. Another of the contemplations are the recollections. Practice mindfulness of the body. Practice the 9 contemplations on the decomposition of the body, which seems like a strange contemplation, but I guess back then it was not. Contemplate the suffering of poverty, war, or the slaughter of animals for food. Contemplate prosperity and decline, impermanence and impurity, the non-maintainability of riches and youth. And then finally, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. The last contemplation that he talks about is the use of koans. So a koan is a method of instruction that helps a practitioner put her whole mind, thought, or body into practice. So what is the sound of one hand clapping is one of the classic ones. But Tang Hoi used these koans a little bit differently than they did later. His method was very simple. The idea is that if we are fully mindful, then everything that we're in touch with becomes a koan. Be fully attentive to everything that you do, look deeply, and break through the veil of ignorance to see the truth. Very simple, very direct. So that is all that I had as far as recollection, or as the meditative practices that were in the book. There is obviously a lot of other stuff in there, but that was the gist of it. A couple of other things I just wanted to quickly go over. I will include some of these other source materials that I came across. But one of the quotes, or at least one of the sentiments that I gleaned from the reading, I wrote down this thusly. However, these meditative contemplations must be approached under the light of emptiness, or the recognition that they are skillful means and illusory. As a result, one should abide at the non-abided place, in non-attachment, in emptiness, and in the formlessness of all phenomenon. So that gets to the idea that we have all of these words forming concepts, but the goal is to use the words and the concepts to go beyond the concepts, because the concepts are helpful but limiting. So Lu Lao, the geographic center in the northern part of Vietnam, where all of this stuff happened. Well, this is an article about that, so I'm just going to read a couple of things that I highlighted. So due to geographical position between India and China, Vietnam has been influenced by both ancient civilizations. Historical evidence indicates that India brought Buddhism to Vietnam before it arrived in China. So Lu Lai is on the main route between India and China. The actual name of this area, it was the first capital of the Han Dynasty domination. Han Dynasty dominated this area of Vietnam. Gao Chao, which may not be the right pronunciation, but it means Gao is connection and Chao means place, so the connection place. Indian monks introduced Buddhism directly into Vietnam a long time before it entered southern China. So as Ashoka, I mentioned, he kind of pushed the idea of proselytizing this, or getting this the Dharma out. The administrative centers of Gao Chi. This point was this area was a composition, or a confluence of a lot of different philosophical beliefs. So there was Theravadan Buddhism, Mahayana Buddhism, but the leaders a lot of the people, for instance, Tang Hoi was educated in a lot of traditional Chinese subjects area. So Confucianism and Taoism were really big influences. So we had all of those things all coming together here, kind of cross-pollinating each other. Lu Lao became a great international commercial center that many foreigners came to and stayed. They brought not only brought goods here for exchange, but they also brought knowledge of their homeland about medicine, agriculture, astronomy, customs, and beliefs. So they do talk about Tang Hoi, very successful in spreading Buddhism during Wusun Quan's reign in Jiangdong, China. In fact, Indian merchants often invited the monks to accompany them on the long journey. It's believed that many of the three Buddhist centers of ancient China, Lu Lai being one of them, was the first to be founded under the Han Dynasty. And I think that's all I have from this. I wanted to conclude by taking a brief look at the Anapanasamriti Sutra, not by going through the text, but by using it as the basis for a guided meditation. So what I was going to do is I'll ring the bell, then after a brief pause, read one of the meditations, have a brief pause, etc., till we go through them. Breathing in and out, a long breath. She knows she is breathing in and out, a long breath. Breathing in and out a short breath. She knows she is breathing in and out a short breath. Breathing in and out and being aware of the body. She knows she is being aware of the body. Breathing in and out and calming the body. She knows she is calming the body. Breathing in and out with a pleasant feeling. She knows she has a pleasant feeling. Breathing in and out with an unpleasant feeling. She knows she has an unpleasant feeling. Breathing in and out and calming the feeling. She knows she is calming the feeling. Breathing in and out and not calming the feeling. She knows she is not calming the feeling. Breathing in and out and feeling happy. She knows she is happy. Breathing in and out and not feeling happy. She knows she is not happy. Breathing in and out, she sees that all things are impermanent. Breathing in and out, she sees that nothing can be grasped hold of. Breathing in and out, she sees that there is no attachment in her mind. Breathing in and out, she knows she is giving up her perceptions. Breathing in and out, she knows that she is giving up her idea of body and lifespan. Breathing in and out, she knows she has not yet given up her idea of body and lifespan. Thank you for your attention. I hope this was of some benefit to you. I know it was to me. Thank you.